everyone, it's Sandy, and today I will be talking about all the books that I read in the month of May. Also, yes, I did get a haircut. I ended up reading 7 books and I also DNF'd 1 book. The first book that I ended up finishing in May is Starfall by Melissa Landers. This is the second book to the Starflight duology. The first book, Starflight, follows 2 characters who basically hate each other and they end up on a spaceship and they have to help each other survive. And Starfall is a companion book, so it does follow 2 new characters, but the characters from the previous book are still somewhat present throughout this book. I didn't like this book as much as I did with the first book. The first book was really enjoyable and fun and entertaining to read. I really loved the banter between the 2 characters in the first book, but the 2 main characters that we followed in this book were just so annoying. They were constantly on and off. They had a lot of miscommunication going on and it was just so frustrating to read. I ended up giving this book a 3 out of 5 stars. I would have enjoyed it more if the characters weren't as annoying. The characters just weren't my favorite and I didn't enjoy reading from their perspectives, so that is why I didn't enjoy the book as much as I wanted to. The second book that I finished is A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas, the third and final book to the ACOTAR trilogy, sort of, because I know that there are going to be 3 more books in the series, but it won't follow Feyre. I can't really say much about my thoughts because it is the 3rd book and my thoughts would be spoilery. Before I get into my review, I do want to address the problematic aspects of this book. Sarah J. Maas has been constantly criticized about the lack of diversity in her books, which is something that she has never really acknowledged. And in this book, you can definitely see that she tried to incorporate diversity in it. However, she still manages to include harmful representation. For example, she refers to asexual people as soulless, and she also portrays this negative and offensive stereotype concerning bisexual people loving threesomes. That's just not okay, and it's really disappointing that she has never really addressed these issues. Those problematic aspects are something that I did not want to ignore, so I did want to mention that in my review. Going into my thoughts, I did enjoy the story overall. Since this is like the conclusion slash finale to the trilogy, I was really nervous to see how it would end. I was really nervous for the characters. Pretty much with a lot of Sarah J. Maas books, I would become really engaged with the last like 100 pages or so. My emotions were basically like all over the place during those last 100 pages. My heart was beating so fast because I was just really scared for the characters. The middle part of this book did drag a bit because there was a lot of planning and scheming and forming alliances, and even though I know that there will be 3 more books in the series, I felt like a lot of the character storylines were just left open and I wished they were resolved more, or there was a bit more closure to these characters. I ended up giving this book a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book is a book that I DNF'd, and that was Alex and Eliza by Melissa De La Cruz, and it kind of kills me that I DNF'd it, but I just wasn't in the mood to read it. In case you didn't know, this book follows Elizabeth Schuyler and Alexander Hamilton, and it just kind of follows their story as they were like teenagers. I really love Hamilton, so I was really looking forward going into this book. I started listening to the audiobook and I just found it boring. There wasn't much happening. I just wasn't feeling the characters. I'm not exactly sure where I stopped, but I was probably like 1/3 through the book. I do plan on eventually finishing this book because I am curious to see the storyline and to see how it ends, but just not this month. The next book that I read is Queens of Geek by Jen Wilde. I absolutely love the setting and the characters. This book takes place at a convention and it follows 2 main characters, Charlie, who is a popular Chinese-Australian YouTuber who recently starred in a movie, and Taylor, who has anxiety and is on the autism spectrum and really wants to meet the author of her favorite book series at this convention. As you can see, there are so many things about this book that makes it diverse. This is an own voices book because Charlie is bisexual and the author also identifies as bi. Taylor is autistic and the author is also autistic. I really enjoyed this book. There was a lot of great messages in this book concerning body shaming and slut shaming, and it was just so good. It was a really great contemporary. I highly recommend it. I ended up giving it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. If you're in the mood for a contemporary book that takes place at a convention, definitely check this book out. The next book that I read is By Your Side by Casey West. This book follows Autumn, who ends up being locked in a library with this boy named Dax Miller. That's all I'm going to say about the plot, but overall I just thought everything about this book was just okay. The plot was okay, the characters was okay, and the romance was okay. From the plot of this book, it sounds like it's going to be a really cute contemporary, and it did have its cute moments, but I just didn't like it as much as I wanted to. If I read this book a few years ago, I probably would have loved it. I just didn't like the writing. I wish there was more depth to the characters characters. What I did like is that there's this portrayal of anxiety. Our main character Autumn does struggle with that, and this is something that she hides from all of her friends. And I really like how supportive her family is. I also do like that this book shows a bit of insight about the foster care system. Since this book is about a boy and a girl being locked in a library, I just expected more from this book, and this book just didn't live up to my expectations, so I ended up giving it a 3 out of 5 stars. The next book that I finished is On the Edge of Gone by Corinne Duvis, and this is an apocalyptic book. Our main character is separated from her sister, and she's trying to survive with her mother, who is addicted to drugs. I really liked reading from this main character's point of view and seeing how she is trying to survive in this apocalyptic world. This is an Own Voices book that follows our main character Denise, who is autistic, and the author who wrote this book is also autistic. The story also includes a diverse cast. Our main character is biracial, and her sister is a bisexual trans black girl, and there are also Muslim and Jewish characters. It's just a really great diverse cast of characters. Although I did like the main character, I wish we would have learned more about some of these side characters. The side characters were just kind of there. They weren't really a big part of the book, and I just really wanted to learn more about them, but I know that that would have made this book super long. Also, the plot wasn't really my favorite. I just felt like there really wasn't much going on in this book. Not a lot was happening, and there really wasn't a lot of interesting things happening in the book. The ending also felt rushed, and it didn't leave me feeling completely satisfied with how it ended, especially since this book is a standalone, so I would have liked to have that like satisfied feeling of finishing a book, but I didn't really get that. But I still did like the story, and I really liked Denise's character, so I ended up giving this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I finished was a reread, and it is Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. This is the first book in the Dark Artifices, and I loved it. I have a review on it, which I will link down below if you want to check out. I love this book, but I don't think I loved it as much as I did the first time that I read it. Maybe because it's a reread and I was expecting a lot of things to happen because I already know what was coming, but I still love the characters. I love the Blackthorn family and their interactions with one another. I would still give it a 5 out of 5 stars, to be honest. And the very last book that I read in May is Lord of Shadows, the second book to the Dark Artifices by Cassandra Clare. I'm not going to say much about this book because it's the sequel, but I will be filming a review soon, so keep an eye out for that. I literally finished this book like 10 hours ago. I finished it last night and it wrecked me. I was sobbing. But again, I love the Blackthorn family. I love Ty, Livy, and Kit. I thought this book was fantastic. It was really fascinating to see the whole political climate of the Shadowhunter world in this book. I think it's very reflective of our own political state today. One thing that I really love about the Shadowhunter world is that there is so much that can be explored within this world. There's already more than 10 books in the Shadowhunter Chronicles, and there's just so much that can be written about this world, and I'm never going to complain about Cassandra Clare writing so many books taking place in the Shadowhunter world. She has built such an amazing world, and I'm just constantly mind blown by her writing, by her characters, and all the different plot lines in her stories. I really love this book. I give it a 5 out of 5 stars, and I'm so sad that I have to wait 2 years for the third book, because Cassie's next book would be the first book in the last hour, which I am so excited for, but I hate that I have to wait 2 years for the third book. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you've read any of the books that I mentioned, please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Bye!